But first, as the nationwide manhunt for suspected chemical attacker Abdul Ezedi enters its third day, police have released further details on their frantic search for the Afghan national. Ezedi is wanted in connection with what officers have described as a targeted and horrific attack that left a mother with likely life-changing injuries and two small children in hospital. Speaking in the past few hours, the Metropolitan Police gave this update.
We've got a large team of very experienced detectives leading the manhunt, using all the tactics that you would expect us to use. Lots of officers out on the ground. Last night, 5 search warrants were executed, 2 in East London and 3 up in Newcastle. And we've recovered some significant and important pieces of evidence which will help with our investigation. Finally, I can make a personal appeal to him. Because Abdul, you clearly have got some very significant injuries. We've seen the images. You need some medical help. So do the right thing and hand yourself in.
Well, Ezedi was last seen at exactly 9 p.m. when he boarded an underground tube at King's Cross Station heading southbound on the Victoria line. The update follows startling revelations that the 35-year-old was twice denied refugee status. He was convicted of a sex attack before being granted asylum after allegedly converting to Christianity, with a priest vouching for him. But, according to Ezedi's neighbours, the suspect was a good Muslim. The revelation has led to serious questions as to how a convicted sex attacker was granted permission permanently to settle in the UK. Former Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick claims false conversions are a familiar story in the asylum system and are used by judges to overturn decisions made by the Home Office, and is calling for an immediate review. Well, a spokesperson for the Prime Minister refused to comment on Ezedi's immigration status, but insisted that Sunak doesn't think foreign criminals should be able to stay in the country. Well, of course, foreign criminals shouldn't be allowed to stay in the country. I mean, talk about stating the bleeding obvious. And this story clearly is, first and foremost, a horrific and violent attack on a woman and 2 young children. But secondly, and much bigger politically speaking than that, are the implications that this is shining a light on the absolute mess of our asylum system. And no matter where you sit politically, and I think you all know that, I'm sort of somewhere in the middle and probably a bit more lenient on some of these things. I'm a righty on some, lefty on some. But, even I, and I'm sort of being a bit self-deprecating on this, think this is absolutely outrageous. Nobody, no matter what their views on immigration and asylum, would think that criminals, convicted criminals, sexual assault criminals, should be allowed to stay. And it also, of course, shines a light on this issue about converting to Christianity. I'm sorry, maybe he did. I think it's highly unlikely. His neighbours are saying he killed.
Who cares if he did, though? What does that have to do?
Well, it gets you your asylum application accepted. Now, if you remember, back in 2020, 3 years ago, there was that guy who bombed the Liverpool Women's Hospital. He too had been denied asylum twice, had converted to Christianity, and he hadn't actually, at that point, had his application accepted, but he was allowed to stay because, hey-ho, I'm a Christian now. This guy Ezedi, clearly used that technique. And all I would say about this is, first of all, number 10 Downing Street should be commenting on this. And secondly, to your point about criminals are allowed to receive asylum for a number of offences. I wouldn't have thought sex offences was one of them, but maybe it is. So we need to get rid of that. And I think that the number 10 Downing Street should not be saying, we're not commenting on this case. It's what the entire nation wants to know about. Why is this guy in this country? He came in 2016 from Afghanistan on the back of a lorry, illegally, applied for asylum, was denied, applied again, was denied, took a little time out to commit a couple of sex crimes, then applied again and was accepted.
Exactly.
That is a system that is in the toilet and it needs to be changed.
Exactly, and that's the thing. He hasn't just arrived on a boat quietly in the night and slipped into the blue. He's been on the radar. He's been already turned down twice for asylum, and then granted a third time on the say-so of a priest saying, who could be a friend, who
after committing a sex crime.
And yet his neighbours are saying he's a good Muslim. So, I mean, clearly something's gone very, very wrong with the whole monitoring of, A, criminals, foreign criminals, and B, former asylum seekers who are then... there seems to be no monitoring of these people.
Absolutely.
At all.
But I mean, these people shouldn't be in the country in the first place. We can all agree on that. But I think the bigger question is who is running Britain? Who is actually in charge of this country? Because we have the actual British people, and then we have this cabal, this consortium of supranational courts and human rights lawyers and useless politicians that are all making these decisions that don't actually have to live with the consequences of them. We have these politicians sitting on TV talking about feminism and how microaggressions are what are holding women back, not the conversation about allowing these criminals into the country. If someone is denied asylum once, why are they staying in this country? It's because we're bound by the courts like the ECHR, and we are not allowed to remove these people that are threats to this country. We've had human rights in Britain long before joining that useless court, that is the ECHR, and we're going to have them long after. We need to stop prioritising the safety of the British public and stop making excuses for this, because this is unjustifiable.
Yeah, I completely agree with you for once, Esther. The priest who vouched for him should be praying for forgiveness from God, quite literally, because
and the lawyers and the lawyers
and the lefty judges
and the politicians, because they should think about that mother who's lost her face.
If Robert Jenrick, who was in charge of the immigration for a short period, he's saying this shouldn't be allowed to happen. But as you say, the guy goes in front of the judge and says, "I'm a Christian now. I believe in Jesus," and he's like, "Yeah,
Was he even tested on?
You're in."
Was he even tested on any sort of Christian
Well,
doctrine?
no, but he had a priest to vouch for him.
Vouch for him.
But that's how pathetic the system. That doesn't mean anything.
We know that.
You
Yeah.
can have a priest
We've
vouch
got
for you and he doesn't know anything about
So
the
then what
religion.
we need is a complete overhaul of the system and a change in the law that says if you apply for asylum and you're rejected, you're sent home
We
straight
need to
away.
leave the courts that are tying us up and holding us back from actually being able to... You know, there are 12,000 foreign national offenders in the UK as we speak right now that are not allowed to be removed because of the ECHR and how it goes against their human rights. There have been people that are terrorist sympathisers that have not been allowed to be deported from this country because apparently the country they'll be sent to, they won't get appropriate medical care.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what we're...
But
the
it
system
isn't
is
the
beyond a joke.
ECHR that allows people like this to stay. It is us, because we allow appeal after appeal after appeal. Once they get turned down, they should be thrown out. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And to go back to your point, Daisy, about committing crimes here while you're waiting for your asylum application to be processed, it does not preclude you from being allowed to stay, and that has to change.
That
we
has
must
to
say,
change.
if you commit a crime here, that's it, you're out.
And so moving on from the politics of the issue, I mean, I do personally find it quite extraordinary that he hasn't been found yet.
Yeah.
And we've got police...
It's quite distinctive
But
these days, isn't it?
he's got this very severe injury.
He's lost his eye, hasn't he? His eye's gone.
Yeah, self-inflicted injury, and you've got the police saying, "Oh, you need medical help. Turn yourself in," and so on.
I think that's true. But if he steps out, he's going to be spotted. But you can only imagine he's being harboured by someone, or he's being found somewhere.
It is astonishing that he was walking through King's Cross Station last night at 9 o'clock. Those are images from last night.
Tesco's.
After it was, and Tesco and Caledonian Road. And after it was all over the news, after we discussed it on this very show. I mean, people had seen images of what he looked like and what they were meant to be looking for. It's amazing that no one...
Yeah,
you
but-
all said, "Oh, he'll be handed in within hours."
But you look-
goes underground,
But you look
rents
at
a
this
room.
you look at this picture of him here, which is from last night. This haircut he even has is very different to the mugshot they've been throwing around, where everyone's saying, "Oh, he's got a bad barber."
Yeah.
That is not the same. That's not look like the same person.
Well, then they've got the wrong mugshot. They need a recent photograph of
maybe
him.
the hair corroded off. That wouldn't surprise me because of the effects of the alkaline.
The point is, it's very easy to hide.
He might not even be alive. I mean, he's walking around with this awful corrosive wound. He probably didn't seek any medical attention because he knows he's a wanted man. Is this man even alive? I mean, we can talk about the incompetence of sort of the agencies that are supposed to be in charge of keeping people like this out of Britain. But there are actually bigger questions like this man is probably just not even alive to be found. Seriously.
Perhaps.
He will be. Some friends will be looking after him. Some friends will say, "Come and stay with us."
Or I think Esther's got a point. I mean, I would not be surprised. I don't want to preempt what might happen, but I would not be surprised if this guy isn't spotted alive again.
Yeah.